So thank you all so much for joining us today. Community Action is extremely pleased to have you meet our new Associate Executive Director for Second Harvest Food Bank, Allison Czapp. Allison made us to have to make a tough choice. She came to us as a writer to our planning department, and not only was she a skilled writer, but she was deeply entrenched in the world of food equity and justice, food justice, having come to us as the director of Buy Fresh, Buy Local. I knew Allison from the Lehigh Valley Food Policy Council. She was doing great things and introducing initiatives that encourage folks to use their SNAP dollars, which most of us know as food stamps, to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables at their local farmers markets. When this position opened up, her supervisor knew that she would be giving up a gem to even offer Allison up for this newly created opening, but she also knew that it would be selfish not to do so. The moment she interviewed for the position, we knew it was the right decision. Allison is well-spoken and outspoken. She has fabulous ideas to help us get back on the right track, and her reputation precedes her. We are thrilled to have Allison in this new role. Lisa Higgins is also relatively new to her role as the chairperson of the Second Harvest Food Bank Advisory Board. Lisa participated in the interview process and helped in the decision of selecting Allison. So here to tell you her perspective on our unanimous decision is Lisa Higgins. Lisa.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. Thank you, Dawn. Allison has a wonderful history locally and nationally as a leader in food policy and addressing food equity issues. She's well-versed in our local region with regard to food access, policy, and collaboration. She knows the landscape and she knows the people. Her knowledge and vision will lead us into the best future we can realize working together. Thank you for joining us today. Here's Allison.
All right, hello everyone. I'm not Allison, but I am Mason. I am our development officer here at Second Harvest. And yeah, let's start Allison's Q&A. So Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dawn and Lisa, for those very kind words. I'm really happy to see some familiar faces on the Zoom. Takes the pressure off a little bit. But yes, I'm coming to CA, CLV, and Second Harvest Food Bank from Buy Fresh, Buy Local of the Greater Lehigh Valley. I worked there for 8 years, first as outreach coordinator and then as director for the last 4 years or so. My time there was really focused on growing the local food economy and finding different research opportunities to understand what was happening locally with our food system. We started the Fresh Food Bucks program to help people using SNAP or food stamps access local food in the Lehigh Valley. We're working with farmers market nutrition programs and trying to really increase those access points as well for seniors and mothers enrolled in the WIC program. I love eating local food. I love being friends with farmers and just really seeing how all those pieces fit together to make our own region much stronger. Prior to my work at Buy Fresh, Buy Local, I was in grad school at New Mexico State University, where I studied anthropology and food systems. Prior to that, I had a small stint in homesteading, and I also worked as an editor and a writer for a series of health policy newsletters in DC. So I came from a journalism background and then focused on my anthropology studies and food systems in particular. So I could talk about my interests for forever, but I'm really interested in digging in to talk about the food bank here today.
Thank you. And I did just want to say, if anyone has any questions for Allison, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end. So please just put them in the chat for Lauren. But, all right. So Allison, you touched on this a little bit, but what made you interested in this position specifically?
Yeah, as I said, I love food systems. I love seeing how, different sources of food all kind of fit together to meet the needs of communities. I think, one thing that's particularly interesting to me is, and that's really been highlighted during the pandemic is, how do global supply chains and national supply chains kind of put us all at risk? And then how does the local food supply chain sort of step in to mitigate some of that risk? We saw everyone firsthand how difficult it was to get food to people, and that was people who weren't even struggling prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic to afford food. So I think, stepping into this role lets me kind of get this whole other perspective on this entirely different sector of the food system. I think coming from a strong local base really grounds me in knowing where our food comes from locally. How do we build up systems that can really step in when the national and global supply chains fail us? So I'm definitely focused on building that kind of infrastructure into our foods, into the food bank here. So I'm really excited to see how do we incorporate the seed farm programming more into what we're doing here at the food bank, and use that incubator farm as a tool to kind of shore up the rest of the local food system, either through education or I know they're doing a tomato trial there now at the farm. And then of course, providing an opportunity to create new farmers. And, I think also, aside from the local ag part, working with the Fresh Food Bucks program and FMMP, I understand the dramatic need there is for food among low-income populations. And I really felt inspired to step into this role and have a huge impact on what we could do collectively to, address those problems in our own community.
Great, thank you. So what do you hope to achieve in this position?
Everything. I think, having been here now, this is my 4th week. So I'm still learning a lot of what needs to be done, what can be done in the short term and the long term. I think, most importantly, what I want to achieve is meeting the need for the 6 counties that we're working in. Over the last couple of years, there have been really tremendous infrastructure improvements at our food bank. And now it's time to take that to the next step and really work to improve our capacity to get food out into the community. We have filled a lot of vacant staff roles. We've created some new staff roles. And all of that is intended to really look at, where are we coming from and what needs to change so that we're meeting the need of our partner pantries and ultimately the people who are coming to us with some needs.
Great. So we talk a lot about food insecurity here. What's something that you wish everyone knew about food insecurity?
Yeah, I think, we all know that there are stigmas attached to people needing assistance. And, I think, again, with the pandemic, everything was really highlighted that anything can change at any time. And, during the pandemic, we saw really increased need for emergency food. And now we're coming kind of out of the pandemic proper, I guess. But that need is still remaining. And my biggest fear is that as life kind of goes back to normal for some people, the people who are left kind of in the lurch are going to go, they're going to be further ignored, and things are really going to kind of revert back to business as usual in detrimental ways. So I think it's really important when we think about things like inflation and housing and, all these other factors that are exacerbating problems with food insecurity and people's ability to just live a quality life, we need to be able to address that here. And we are working to address that. And I think, what I want people to know about food insecurity is that like these problems don't just go away because there's been job growth or some economic recovery, and that the food bank is here and is working to address the needs of the community.
Could you tell us all a little bit about what your job entails?
I have a lot of meetings. Yeah, so right now I'm overseeing all of the food bank. So I'm working closely with our agency relations team and the various programs that are in operation at the food banks, the PA senior food, or at the food pantries, the PA senior food boxes, military share, healthy pantry initiative, our SNAP outreach programming. I'm also working with our sourcing coordinators, Bradley and Dalton, to understand what are sourcing priorities, how we can increase food donations and build that capacity into our own warehousing, how we're being accountable for being, stewards of that food so it gets to the community, and it's stuff that people want to eat and it's nutritious and healthy for them. I think also we've been having a lot of conversations about culturally relevant foods and how do we assist pantries in obtaining things that are important foods for their clients, while also thinking about creating healthy options for people as well. And then I'm also on the other side of things working with the seed farm to try to think about how can we better integrate that program into food bank programming and what the seed farm should mean for the Lehigh Valley in the long term. So there's a lot going on. We're going to be working soon on a new strategic plan for the next 5 years, and I am very excited to jump into that.
Great, thank you. So what is one thing that you wish people knew about you specifically?
I'm a pretty open book. I don't think, I don't think I have too many secrets that people probably don't know that I don't want them to already know about me. But for people who are on this call who I haven't met yet and hopefully will meet in the future, I do want you to know that I come at this position with a ton of passion and drive. I am data-driven and results-driven. I like to track numbers and change course if I see things aren't working. I do have big dreams. I mean, we've been talking a lot here about, how do we really meet that need and how do we increase capacity? And I know change cannot be done immediately in a lot of circumstances, but I'm trying to be methodical and realistic while also optimistic and idealistic. I'm looking at what do we do in the short term and how do we turn that into really long-term impactful change.
Beautiful, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about your hobbies outside of the many meetings you attend?
Yeah, yes. Is that a hobby? It is now, right? Yeah, well, I mean, local foods, I will always, be involved in those local food system kind of events and going to farmers markets. I'm a CSA member. I love canning and food processing. I also really enjoy like nature activities, hiking and camping. I have a 7-year-old daughter, so I'm really enjoying that age and just exploring things, with her. Yeah, I mean, I love my work, and so work is sort of a hobby for me. I read a lot. I am studying a lot about informal economies right now, which I think are just incredibly fascinating, and along with different food system reading and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren Matthews now. We got some questions in the chat, so let's get that going. And if anyone is interested in asking any questions to Allison, just make sure you're sending them to Lauren in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'll start with a few that I received directly to me. The first one is, what is your favorite part of the job so far?
I'm really loving this job so far. Everyone kept telling me like, it's a big job, don't get overwhelmed. But I mean, that's what I kind of crave. I like having all of these different pieces that fit together in this like one nice puzzle. And maybe it's not fully put together yet, but you know, that's the challenge before me. But I think working here, definitely my favorite part, aside from just having very mission-driven work, is the staff here at the food bank. When I see what they've accomplished, you know, over the last 6 months or so, it is just really amazing that they were just, you know, they're passionate about what they're doing. It's a fun staff to work with. And it really motivates me coming into the office every day to just, you know, not let anybody down, including my own staff and the people that we're serving. So I think collaborating here at the food bank every day is top of the list for me. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yes, especially Lauren Matthews. No.
Okay, next up, how can the community be more involved with Second Harvest?
Yeah, there are tons and tons and tons of opportunities for the community to get involved here. We have monthly packs in the warehouse for military share and the PA senior food boxes. We, of course, always welcome donations of food or community groups sponsoring food drives. If you're not trying to organize anything, donating money is always something that's extremely helpful to us, so we can kind of direct those funds to Pantries' immediate needs and purchase some of the food that we don't necessarily see come in through federal feeding or state feeding programs. We have a couple of great events coming up. We'll need some volunteers for the Seed Farm Plant Sale, which is a huge and popular event, and that's in May. So yeah, I mean, we have information on our website, which is secondharvestlv.org, where we post different volunteer opportunities. We have, you know, individuals coming, but then we also work with different businesses that bring groups of volunteers out. It can be a real fun experience. You know, we'll put some music on and set up the assembly line. And, you know, it's an opportunity to not only just, you know, spend time with coworkers or friends, but also, you know, learning about food insecurity and some of the programs that we're doing to help people.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's see. Let me scroll up here one moment. Okay. How would you describe your management style and what do you hope to bring to the staff at Second Harvest?
My management style, I mean, I come from anthropology, so I'm pretty holistic. I try to take a really balanced view of, you know, what is everyone contributing. I like to think that I'm able to kind of assess what the strengths of the staff are, and there are many among this team. So I'm not a micromanager by any stretch of the imagination. I want people to use their expertise and bring forth their ideas that they have. And, you know, I think what my role is management-wise, you know, having many voices that are equally as qualified to be making decisions and bringing ideas. You know, how do we make the decisions and move programs forward? So that's what I'm really looking to be, kind of the impartial decider with all the best information that's brought to me by the staff. And then I also really do a lot of research on my own. So I you know, want to bring my own ideas as well. Really, I just want to create a collaborative environment. I think that exists in a lot of ways here. And I just want to help amplify that.
Okay, next question. How does the seed farm fit in with the food bank?
Yeah, I get this question all the time. And to me, it feels very clear in my head, but I think there's a lot that can be done to sort of integrate that a lot better. I've worked at the seed farm since 2014 and have volunteered at every plant sale and, you know, farm to table dinner. And I really hold that program close to my heart. We have new leadership at the seed farm as well. Katie Hunter, who comes from Hunter Hill CSA. And we're really looking at, you know, how do we change our models of production in ways that would help support our efforts here at the food bank. So essentially, like, how do we have the seed farm growing food that will then be distributed through the food bank or to the pantries? So we're thinking through those types of issues. But then I think kind of what I had said earlier, when I think about food supply chains, you know, right now we're going through this housing crisis in the Lehigh Valley. And I think we all know that that's going to mean more loss of farmland and more housing developments will be popping up before we even understand what's happening. At the same time, we're losing farmers at an extremely alarming rate, not just locally, but in the nation. So having this incubator program is food security as far as I'm concerned, creating an opportunity for new people to develop their farming skills and business models. And then the next step, of course, is going to be how do we get those farmers onto land or into farm management positions that they're growing food in the Lehigh Valley. And then hopefully with, you know, working through Second Harvest programming, how are we trying to support farmers in that kind of social mission where they see an outlet for some of their product at a food bank or pantry level.
Thank you. Okay, we have another one in the chat. What are some ideas for tackling food desert zones, quality of variety to not let boredom set in and possibly make interest wane?
Yeah, I mean, those are big questions. And I think everybody is looking for the answers to those questions. When we were doing the Fresh Food Bucks program, you know, I'm extremely familiar with the ERS Food Access Research Atlas. So I've really kind of pinpointed areas in the Lehigh Valley in my previous work that are considered low income, low access areas. I've worked with the Healthy Corner Store initiative from 2014 to about 2017, where we were really looking at food resources in the community as far as corner stores. And then through our Fresh Food Bucks program, we started integrating fresh local produce into some of those corner stores. So I do feel like I have a decent lay of the land when it comes to like, where are these areas? And now the next step is going to be working with our agency relations and food bank team to really build capacity as far as food distribution and pantries go there. So, I mean, we have, we're piloting now a new model of distribution where it's more of like a mass mobile distribution, where we're going monthly to a school and, you know, having a mobile pantry distribution for people in the area. So we're really looking to see what that model is. But I think, you know, mapping and trying to match our programs to the community is going to be, you know, step one. And then partnering with other people who are really connected and integral in their own communities that are facing these challenges and seeking their input as well is going to be the next phase.
Thank you. So here's a simple one, but we didn't really talk about it. Someone's asking, what is the plant sale?
What's the plant sale? Yeah, so every year, the seed farm, as its main fundraiser, they grow hundreds and hundreds of plants. A lot of these are extremely unique varieties from like Baker Creek heirloom seeds. And the farmers are growing them right now in the greenhouses. And then you can go to the farm to purchase them. It's a beautiful festive event. And I know I always plant seed farm plants and have had extreme luck with them. So I would not say that if it wasn't true. I highly recommend the Sun Gold tomatoes. But yes, you know, the variety is there. You know, we have staff there that can offer some, you know, assistance or some tips. And then we love seeing people throughout the year when they say like, oh, here's my, you know, eggplant or my peppers, and letting us, you know how they're using them. People come back year after year. It's a really great event.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What's the biggest challenge Second Harvest faces?
Yeah, definitely it's meeting demand. We've seen just really extensive change in the amount of people who are needing our services. And as we ramp up our capacity and infrastructure, we just really need to think bigger. Yeah, that's, I mean, trying to, you know, things change so dramatically over the last couple of years, and plans that were kind of put in place and, you know, actions that we were wanting to move forward with, I think especially with the pandemic, need reassessment, so that we're making sure we're on the right path moving forward and being able to meet that demand. And I think that will really be hammered out in the strategic planning process.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Next one. What do you hope for the future of Second Harvest?
Again, you know, my future hope is that we are meeting the immediate demands of our communities that we're serving. I think, you know, kind of more broadly, you know, I'd really love Second Harvest to be on the forefront of innovation as far as food banking goes. I mean, there are a lot of resources at our disposal on both the federal and national and state level, with Feeding PA and Feeding America, the national organization. And I think, you know, as we move forward and look to make these big changes so that we're able to meet the need, we need to be looking at, you know, what are similar sized food banks doing across America that have really been able to ramp up their distribution in ways that are meeting the needs of the community, and kind of, you know, match those against what we're seeing here locally. I mean, obviously there's not going to be one single solution that's going to solve problems for every community of America. I mean, I'm very locally minded, so you know, I want to make sure what we're choosing to do is the best fit for our community. But I also would like to position this food bank as a leader who can be providing solutions to other food banks that are struggling with some of our same issues. You know, I think one other hope that I have, oh, I see it's now snowing again. One other hope that I have is to, you know, when people think about Second Harvest Food Bank, I want them to automatically feel like this is a good steward of the resources that we're providing to them. I don't want people to wonder what we're doing. I want to be transparent and have our programs known, so that both people know where they can get assistance if they need it, in ways that are not making them feel stigmatized or ashamed. And also, I'd like people to, you know, really recognize the efforts of the staff here, and feel like this is an integral part of our community and we support this organization. Because really, when we're able to do that, that's when we're going to have that mass collaboration, you know, across different organizations, and, you know, people are really going to be working together to address the challenges facing our community, not just food insecurity, because that does not exist in a vacuum, but we can really try to tackle those huge systemic issues that, you know, need to be solved.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have, what are your efforts to provide healthy food to the pantries?
So we have a bunch of different programs happening now. We are buying produce boxes that we're distributing to pantries. We're trying to figure out right now how to increase the number of these produce boxes that are going out. And we have some plans in the work for this, and we'll see how they go. The important thing is going to be just being in constant communication with our agency, our pantry directors who we're working with, to make sure that, you know, the food we're providing them is what they want and need, and it's of high quality and usable. You know, I think also we need to do a better job of getting information out about how to use food. You know, whether this is including recipes or doing little, you know, live cooking demos on our Facebook, or just quick like snippets of like, use this food this way. You know, I certainly know the challenge of trying to convince people to eat more fruits and vegetables from the local food standpoint. You know, everyone knows what it takes to have a healthy diet. I think, you know, regardless of income, that's not always what people choose to eat, even if they can eat that way. So I think there's a lot of nutritional education that can happen in ways that are a little more fun, perhaps, and not restrictive. I think, you know, from the local food standpoint, it felt a lot like whenever you would talk about like, you should eat healthier, everyone was just like, whoa, and thinking like everything I was telling them to eat was like only fruits and vegetables. So I think we need to be careful that we're not like dictating health, but just allowing people to have the opportunity to eat healthier by being able to provide them that food. We have our Fresh Forward initiative. We are working to make sure we have a constant source of foods like eggs, proteins, and milk. You know, these are some sourcing challenges I know that we've had in the past that, you know, have been exacerbated by supply chain issues again. But we have a new sourcing coordinator here. We've been having some really wonderful meetings about, you know, how do we prioritize, you know, the requests of the pantries and the needs of the pantries, and balance that against what are the nutritional needs of the community that we're trying to serve. So we're really working on some exciting spreadsheets and lists and plans to move forward to make sure we're meeting all of those needs. And hopefully, as we're able to try to start making some of these changes and implement some of these programs, you know, we'll be able to communicate like what they are and really measure like how the food is moving through the community and whether people are eating it and enjoying it.
Thank you. Okay, here's one. If I'd like to come into the food bank for a tour, is that possible? And if so, who do I contact?
Absolutely, you can come into it for a tour. We love having people here. It's, you know, we've been shut down to the public during the pandemic, more or less. And, you know, I know in the past there were always groups coming through, you know, to see what we're doing here. I mean, you know, the reality is that the food bank needs to do some brand building. If people don't know who we are and aren't welcome through our doors, then they're not going to know that our services are available to them and people that they might be working with or know who are in need. So for anyone who's interested in scheduling a tour, you can certainly reach out to Mason or Lauren. You could drop your email perhaps to them in a message through this chat, and they'll be in touch, and we will welcome you with open arms.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Okay, next one. I have noticed that many items that were always on the pick list are no longer there. Frozen protein option, refrigerated items, cheese, and more. Is this the current pick list what we can, is the current pick list what we can expect moving forward, or are things going to be ramped back up to the level it was prior to last quarter?
Yeah, and we are very aware of some of the issues with supplies of certain items. Again, this is, in some ways, our hands are tied for this because we're not getting shipments from USDA, or our orders have been canceled or delayed. And these are, again, some of these broader supply chain issues. You know, inflation has had a huge impact on the supply chain as well. So we are working on this. You know, it is a huge priority here. And with our new sourcing coordinator, and our retail pickup coordinator, we're really working to fill those gaps that we know people may be experiencing. So please rest assured that we are definitely aware of this issue, and we are looking to make sure we have desirable items in the quantities that are required to meet the needs of our pantries and their clients.
Thank you. Next question. Second Harvest mission is focused on meeting emergency food needs. The PA Emergency Feeding Task Force is looking at planning for future emergency preparedness. What relationships, if any, does Second Harvest have with the local emergency agencies?
Yeah, I actually was just having a meeting about this very issue earlier this week. It was Wednesday, Monday, it must have been Monday. So we'll be reaching out to PEMA to coordinate with their emergency response division. We're kind of doing just some very basic work on understanding our generator needs and kind of cataloging how do we respond as a physical building in an emergency. So we're really working to put sort of a protocol in place for how we would address something like this. I think, with the latest emergency, the pandemic, we really saw how fast things needed to shift. And this experience of going through that should not be lost upon anybody. We absolutely need to learn from that and make sure moving forward that we have a really firm plan in place that, of course, we know needs to be flexible in order to meet whatever challenges before us. But this is absolutely something that we are working on right now.
Thank you. So I know we talked about how the seed farm is involved with the food bank, but now we have, how does Second Harvest tie into community action?
Yeah, again, this is, I feel like, obvious to me. But when I think about community action, it really is, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to come to this organization. It really is addressing, the biggest challenges I think that are facing low-income residents of the Lehigh Valley. It's food and it's housing. And when you look at, how wealth disparities have been kind of perpetuated, or income changes and inflation, food and housing are the highest costs that people are facing. And so if we're not addressing those two issues in tandem, then we're not going to be able to solve any of the problems. And then kind of everything, arching over that is just incredible systemic inequalities, and particularly racial inequalities. We have systems that were built that were not designed to be fair to people. And so we have at CALV, the REJ Color Outside the Lines initiatives that are really trying to take a hard look at racial disparities and racial inequality and equity issues, and make change happen there. And that starts also with working with students at a young age. So we have programming with younger students to work on those kind of racial equality issues. And then with our housing programming, we have emergency housing, we have transitional housing, and then we also have housing rehab, so that we're allowing people to live in safe houses, right? We're removing lead and helping weatherization efforts. And so, I mean, all of those things together are really working to create spaces for people in the Lehigh Valley to thrive, meeting their basic needs, things that shouldn't be questioned, like, why would we be doing this? So I think as an organization as a whole, just really bringing all of those programs under one roof is extremely important for kind of getting a grip on, what is the scope of the problem across the Lehigh Valley.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, I have a little bit of a lengthy one here, so bear with me. Make sure you get it all. On the topic of usable food, does Second Harvest have a plan to collaborate with grocery donors in order to ensure better storage of items to prevent freezer burn, unusability, damaged food, and or reducing the amount of fringe items donated, such as beef hearts, kidneys, and other which require extensive cooking techniques and extra ingredients in order to become more palatable? You get all that?
Yes. Yeah, and I think again, having our sourcing team in place is going to play a really critical role in this. You know, one thing that's interesting that I've never really thought about before coming here is that, you know, with the mass warehouse proliferation of the Lehigh Valley, we are also, we have access to just an amazing amount of food from warehouses that are supplying the New York and Philadelphia metro areas. And so not all of that food is good or desirable or healthy or something that we want. So our sourcing team is going to be working, you know, with these different retailers and places that are offering this food as donation to say, like, you know, this is great, you're offering this, but what about something a little bit better? And I think that will also speak to the issues of quality control as well. You know, if we know we're getting something from a donation that's consistently of poor quality, you know, we don't have to take that. The last thing we want is to create a trash burden for our pantries and their clients for getting something that's not usable. Like, we want the food that we're providing to be consumed. Like, that is the goal. And so just, you know, I would encourage pantries that are experiencing issues with freezer burn or something like that, please reach out to our agency relations coordinators, Nicole and Brandon, and let us know if you're having repeated problems with things so we can try to address it here on our end. We're not the end user of the food, so there might be issues that we're not aware of at some time. So I think, you know, just keeping those lines of communication open are going to be important. Like I said, we're really working with the sourcing team to develop priority lists for different food products. You know, and that's from things that we should be having on hand in certain quantities at all times, as well as, you know, what are the culturally relevant foods that we're missing out on, that we're not supplying to our clients who are really needing these foods.
Great. Thank you, Allison. It looks like that was our last question, which we're in pretty good timing here. But there, I just want to let you know, and I can share with you later, but you've got a lot of welcoming messages as well and looking forward to working with you. So I guess I will now pass it off to Dawn to close out our meeting.
Okay, thank you. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope that you'll all stay connected and stay involved with Second Harvest and with Allison, and reach out with ways that you want to be involved. So thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.